As many as you know, that a majority of my videos has been more or less exposing the Adamic mindset in a lot of Christians, and really trying to get them to move away from the Adamic mindset and start to operate in walking with the mind of Christ. And that entails for them to stop focusing on the world and to focus on God. So it's really my goal in all my videos is to lead you into, fully trusting God and really not depending on yourself or on anyone for that matter, but looking, directly to God and focusing on Him and what He can do. So, with that being said, the title of this video is called Do Not Depend on Man. Now, as you know, if you've seen my videos, if you've been watching, each one that I've posted, in this world it's thought of as the man being the main breadwinner for his family. And, we think that, this law has always been around, that, it's as if, God created man with that specific role that he needed to fulfill. But if you've watched my videos, you know from my main breadwinner video that I uploaded, I think it was more than a month ago, that it's not like that at all. That the whole breadwinner model didn't start until the latter part of the 1800s. So really it's, turning man's eyes from traditional thinking into, walking with the mind of Christ. Now, this world enforces this thinking, and, families push this thinking. They try to get their sons to get a good paying job, try to teach them to be responsible according to the way the world does things. And to deter somebody from following that thinking would put that person into a place to where they can be criticized by this world. And, with daughters, a lot of fathers that are financially focused and all about becoming successful financially will push their daughters to look for a man who's, financially successful themselves, and never to go in the direction of somebody that is not, in that place. So really it teaches, both boys and girls to judge somebody by the surface and by what they have. So more or less, love takes a back seat while money is being focused on. And I've said this in a few videos that this world, works in hypocrisy. On the one hand, they want people to be financially successful, to focus on money. So when a man goes and does that, and his eyes are focused on, trying to make money and all that, then he spends his time overtime in order to do such. And then the other side of the world comes out saying, well, you're spending too much time at work, you're disregarding your wife and kids. So, which way are they supposed to go? So this is the direct confusion that Mammon is throwing at anybody in the world that wants to be financially successful. And this is the delusion that I had spoke about, that what it said in Scripture about the deceitfulness of wealth and the cares of this world. All it is it gives man a delusion of what he would desire in this world. So when he has that delusion in his mind, then that's the way he's going to focus. So then the man is divided in his devotion to God. So I really want to expose that in these videos. So like I said, fathers train their daughters to possibly look to look at the man as the main source for his family. And I recall one time I was talking with an old friend of mine that we went to Bible college together, and she said that she held to the traditional view of the man as the main breadwinner. And, that a lot of people have that thinking in mind. And all it is it's tradition. And just because something is a tradition doesn't make it necessarily true. So with, molding boys into that place of being the main breadwinner, they heap on their shoulders, responsibilities and expectations that they have to fill. They want to marry, then they have to have a good house in the place. They have a good car. They have to have a good paying job, all in place. They have to work toward saving money, investing. And so when his focus is on his career, then it becomes his identity. Now, previously, God was the source for man until Adam and Eve claimed independence from God. So then Adam then tried to take the place of God as the main source. God provided everything. So now man has taken that identity as being the provider in trying to fulfill and to fill God's shoes. And it's an impossibility. And I'll get to that eventually because I want you to see exactly what I mean about how man is trying to fill that role, but he just can't do it. Now, God is Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides. And like I said, Adam and Eve chose independence. Previously, they worked the garden until sin. After sin, then they toiled. Man tries to take God's role and position. And so his identity changed from, being a son of God into being, trying to take God's role as provider. So he's no longer looking to God for his needs. He's being depended on for someone else's needs to be met. So man thinks that he is the source. You see that a lot. You see that thinking. I mean, how many, fathers, tried suicide because they couldn't fill that exact role when they lost their job or whatever happened. They got sick, so they couldn't no longer work. So then, they feel like failures because they couldn't fulfill that role that they were given. So the whole mammon places providing on the man's shoulders. So the man thinks that he has to take the responsibilities independently and not to be helped. He won't be helped. He won't receive help from people. And, God in his love wants to reach out and show him that he is the source. But man denies the help from man because he doesn't want to be looked at as less than a provider. And so the world, if he lost his job, they will push him to find another one, and quick, because he's got to provide for his family. So let's switch this. Let's look to God and see what God can do. Now with God provides, and nothing can thwart him from providing. God doesn't get tired. He doesn't get sick. He doesn't get overwhelmed. God won't die. God doesn't lose his capability to provide. He's not taken surprise by, any circumstance that would inhibit him from providing. And God knows what's best. So then let's turn this on man. Man gets sick. He gets tired. He gets overwhelmed. Man can face sickness. He can die. He can lose his job. He is taken by surprise from unfortunate circumstances, and man doesn't know what's best. So if you depend on your spouse to get by, you will face problems because man is faulty, as you can see. If you're depending on somebody that is so untrustworthy, then you're going to be dismayed. So if they can't do any of those things, they will get criticized. And if they lose their job or they get sick and they can't work, then the world is going to come against that. So if you're depending on your spouse in their job and you're pushing them to work, and if they they get sick, then you try to hurry them and get them well so they can go back out and provide. Well, it shows through those actions that you're depending on them. And what will happen if they die? Now, you are placing your trust in someone not trustworthy, and your dependence is on shaky ground. So I want you to check out Psalm 118:8. I'm going to read that to you. Okay, so Psalm 118:8 says, "It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man." Then Psalm 146:3, "Do not trust in princes, in mortal man, in whom there is no salvation." And just to remind you, this is the New American Standard Bible. So in Isaiah 2:22, it says, "Stop regarding man, whose breath of life is in his nostrils, for why should he be esteemed?" And let's look at it. And I mean, if you're depending on the man, then God can take his breath away, and then you would be dismayed because you're trusting in somebody that's not trustworthy. You know, this is the whole point of these videos, is to get you to be conscious toward who you're depending on. So question is, who should you depend on? Now, if you are a Christian, your source needs to be in God and not man. You need to forget the world's ways of doing things and what they're trying to push you to do. Because if they're trying to get you to rely on your job or anything that could be taken away, then you will be dismayed. God can take care of you if you will only let him. And we have examples all through Scripture. Read about Moses and the Israelites in the desert for 40 years and how God provided for them. Look how God provided bread and fish, how Jesus multiplied them. God can come through, but you have to get this thinking out that, the world tries to say that, God isn't going to do anything. Well, the world doesn't believe, a majority of them doesn't believe God exists. So why would you place your trust in what they're saying? So if you could see that your trust is on anything of this world, maybe your job, maybe you're trusting in your spouse's job, then you need to get out of that place and focus on who God is in your life and who he can be if you haven't trusted him. So I would suggest to look through Scripture and find out who exactly God is and what God can do, and put your faith in him and not in mortal man. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for taking the time to watch.